They fell in love with the new David, Jesus, who died on the cross for their sins and allowed them to be justified in front of God, just as if they had never sinned. That's what he had a zeal for. And it started with a prayer. Use me. Your plan, my obedience, your results. God's doing a new thing. And the old prophets and the old law, it's been fulfilled in the new David. A David that does not decay, still died, but does not decay, resurrected from the dead, still brings freedom, not from your oppressor, but from your greatest oppressor, sin, can justify you. And that old dust, it can't do anything for you. In the first century, when they talked about the idea of being a disciple, that word, it kind of gives a word picture of being so close to someone you're following that you would actually pick up the dust of their feet when you're walking. And so you wanted to be covered in that rabbi or that teacher's dust. And so to take your sandals off and say, nah, I want nothing to do with how you're deciding to move forward with your relationship with God, because we are going two separate directions. It was a way for him to say, you've put yourself outside of God's story by rejecting Jesus. But that's your choice. I would imagine for Paul at this moment, he's wrestling with the reality of, God, remember when I had that conversation with your son on the road to Damascus and I ended up blind for 3 days because I was a little stubborn? Remember I told you I was going to give my life to you and you responded with, like, I've got all these plans and I'm going to share Jesus with kings, and it's not going well, okay? Damascus, basket. Jerusalem, sent home. 6 to 10 years, I'm hanging out by myself making tents. Like, I'm just hanging out in my parents' basement. We don't actually know that. But he's close to his parents' basement. He's in his hometown. You send me to Antioch, it finally goes well, and then they're like, hey, we don't need you no more. And then we go to Cyprus, we pick up John Mark, I'm gonna have someone help me, and as soon as we get to Perga, he's like, deuces, I'm going home, this is hard. We get finally 100 miles north through a mountain passage into Midland, Turkey, and all of a sudden, we get the biggest crowd ever. The whole city comes out, and guess what? Now I gotta go again. And I want you to use me, but honestly, this kind of sucks. It's not what I pictured. What does it mean when we ask God to use us? What do we envision when that's our prayer? When we say, God, use me, what do we see? What do we see the finished product or the process? How do we see the journey? How do we see the steps to get to whatever that is? I would imagine it's full of like great moments. Yeah, I'm like making progress, I'm doing something. Paul's had the most difficult journey, and it's only been like 14 years. 14 years. You know, a lot of times when our prayer is use me, we start with the right thing, right? We say, God, use me any way you see fit. Just use me any way you see fit. I'm going to surrender. You've made me, and I just want to be used by you. Use me any way you see fit. What Paul has discovered, and I think what he begins to embody, is this. He starts the same way we do. Use me. Like, yeah, use me. I want you to use me. I want you to use me. And then he gets to the next step, which I think we struggle with a little bit, but we get on board with, right? Use me. And it's going to be your plan, right? Use me, your plan. It's going to be your way, your plan. You come up with it. I'm on board. I think we're all there with that. we get to the next piece of the definition of what it really means to be used by God. Use me. It's your plan. It's my obedience, right? Like, okay, if I'm going to say your plan, it's up to me to say, yes, sir, I'm in. I'm going to do this. Today's going to be the day. I'm in. Count on me, baby. Count on me. I wake up in the morning and say, God, what do you got for me today? I'm in. Use me. Your plan, my obedience. Here's the problem. This is where we get stuck. This is where we got some tension. It's part 3 of the use me definition. Here it is. Use me, your plan, my obedience, your results. Your results. Because the truth is, success for us is measured in success. The thing is, with God, our success is measured in our obedience. That if it's his plan, then his plan might not be for us to be successful, but simply to be faithful. His plan might not be for us to see the increase. His plan might be just for us to plant the seed. Or his plan might be for us to do a little watering on someone else's seed that they planted. And we still might not be there to see the increase. Or our plans, some of us who are incredibly lucky enough might actually be there for the increase. But the truth is, we don't know. And the way God works in his timing, it just doesn't happen overnight. We're finally getting to a place where Paul's on his first missionary journey, and we're over a decade in from the time he meets Jesus and says, hey, I'm all in, let me do whatever you want me to do. Over a decade, and it's like, man, Jesus, can we like condense the plan a little bit? Like, I got a life to live. I'd like to do your plan. I got some other plans too. You know what I'm saying? Can we condense this? Paul's showing us. He's like, look, Christians, watch me. Follow me as I follow Jesus. Learn from me. It's not going to happen overnight. Sometimes it does, but most time it doesn't. Most time it doesn't. Paul in particular, I don't know what it was like for him to walk out of that city. He shakes the dust off his feet. I don't know if he looks at Barnabas and it's like, bro, city 3 that we've been run out of, or I've been run out of. What am I doing? I didn't try to lock anybody up this time. I didn't threaten to kill anyone. I thought we were making progress. As they're taking that walk to Iconium, the next city, on the Augustan Way, find another synagogue to talk in. You know, Paul doesn't find out for sure for about a year that as he's walking away from that city, the city in Antioch, he doesn't find out for almost a year that while there were those people who were persecuting so much that he felt like he needed to leave, there was also a small group of people that began to meet in a house. Paul didn't know for about a year that he had actually planted his first church. Paul didn't know that there were people that were going to start talking about the new David as a savior that could free them from their sins. He didn't know. He didn't know that they were going to start worshiping God through this new David named Jesus. He didn't know. And as he takes that lonely walk to the next city, he just doesn't know. But Paul again is showing us, watch me. I'm going to show you how to follow Jesus. That zeal that we talked about, that's so iconic in the Jewish heritage, has transformed itself in the heart and soul of Paul. To say, hey, I've got a zeal for the message of Jesus, but more than that, you know what his zeal is for, that we have proof of through historical writing? His zeal is that the church would grow, not just in Jerusalem, not just in Damascus, not just in Turkey, but the church would spread over the entire world. Now, when Paul put his head on the rocks on the way to the next city that night, he was praying and dreaming of a church he wasn't sure had gotten started, but sure enough had. And he was praying and dreaming 2,000 years into the future of every single one of you that would be impacted by every church he would plant along the way. None of them started by devout Jewish people, but started by people who just yesterday were worshiping a sex god or a sun god or a river god or a fertility god or a food god or a lightning god or something in between. And they fell in love with the new David, Jesus, who died on the cross for their sins and allowed them to be justified in front of God just as if they had never sinned. That's what he had a zeal for. And it started with a prayer. Use me. Your plan, my obedience, your results.